Well, June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and joining us tonight is Dr. Luke Piper, psychiatrist at UPMC. Liz, I want to thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So my first question to you is, why do you think men are reluctant to seek care?
Yeah, why have a Men's Mental Health Month in the first place? I like to emphasize up front, it's not taking anything away from the mental health struggles that women deal with. But as psychiatrists, we care a lot about the fact that men just aren't as likely to seek care. It's about, I think numbers show about 40% of all men with mental illness ultimately see a psychiatrist or a mental health professional. And I think there's a stigma that surrounds mental health to begin with. I think a lot of people are maybe worried about medications that a psychiatrist might use, or maybe feel like subjecting themselves to mental health treatment means something about themselves, like it's a personal failing. I think this gets really dialed up whenever social expectations about masculinity come into play, as though men aren't allowed to show any vulnerability, or at least I think that that's the pressure that society puts on them in a lot of cases.
And for those who do receive care, what are you seeing are the common, top things that they come to receive care for?
Most often, so men can be vulnerable to just about any mental illness. It's more common, I think, compared to women, for them to be diagnosed with things like substance addiction or schizophrenia, but they can very easily struggle with depression and anxiety. And I think this is a myth we try to dispel, that they're somehow invulnerable from experiencing emotion, or that men who experience sadness or anxiety can't have that to a disordered degree, or can't suffer from things like major depression or generalized anxiety where it becomes paralyzing. I often hear that men are maybe concerned about being judged by their families or by their coworkers or by their friends. They might be worried about the side effects of medications that we use or what treatments even are. But I think overall, they're worried about what it says about them. Again, that it's somehow a failure of masculinity, or it's somehow a failure of them as a person, that it's just something they're supposed to power through.
And maybe for men of color, a different set of challenges, or?
Yeah, I think all of that kind of gets dialed up to 11, and unfortunately I think this affects a lot of the patients that we try to work with here in Dauphin County. However far we can say that we've come as a society or as a country, I think a lot of men of color have still been victimized to some extent by discrimination and racism. And at least in my experience working with them, I think this affects some of the ways that they see the world. That can be its own source of trauma. It can make pre-existing mental illness worse. And I also think it means that they tend to be brought up, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they tend to be brought up in family and cultural systems where they learn to be very self-reliant and self-sufficient. One of the things we try really hard to do as psychiatrists is be welcoming and inviting to patients and let them know that they can trust us. I think that can be more difficult for them if they've gone through discrimination and racism, to put their trust in someone else to help them.
And quickly, what advice do you have for somebody who's needs help?
I don't think that there's any kind of personal weakness in having insight into where you want your life to be, where you want your emotional health to be. And reaching out to a psychiatrist or a mental health professional can help you get to that point in life.
All right, thank you, Dr. Piper.
Absolutely.
And hopefully the men will take that into consideration and get
Thank
the
you
help
so much
they
for
need.
having me.
Hi, I'm Eric Finkenbinder from ABC 27. We're excited to announce the new ABC 27 News Plus app. Live stream newscasts or watch content on demand. This is different than the ABC 27 app on your smartphone. You can check this out at home, and it's very easy to use. With a Fire Stick, go to the homepage, scroll down to search. From there, enter ABC 27. Move over to the apps, and there we are. Click the icon and install. It's just that easy.